This means Michael, we're live.
That much French I understand. Hi, my name is Michael Waitze, and welcome back to eCommerce Undercover. As always, I have
Martin Ronfort.
It's nice to have you here, as always, back in the studio.
Yep, that's true, right?
It's great to have you here.
Yep.
And today, we have an awesome guest.
Oh, yeah, very happy.
Patri Ferreras, lead media buyer at DimNiko Agency. I'm Dim, otherwise I would be able to pronounce it properly. Patri, how are you doing today?
I'm very good, guys. How are you?
Awesome. Really awesome.
Very good as well. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show, Patri, talking about what you know about your experience and everything you do in the e-commerce world. I'm sure it's going to be a great episode.
Yeah. The only thing is, as I said offline, I'm going to say it online again. I feel like these glasses make me look 75, which is really 2 years older than I really am. So I'm not so happy about it today. I just figured a little humor to start off. So Patri, where are you right now, actually?
I'm currently in Spain. I'm actually Spanish, but funny enough, I've been living abroad for many, many years. And I just recently came back like a couple of months ago. So yeah.
Where did you come back from?
Last country I lived in was Cyprus. I've been there for 3.5 years. Yeah, but I change countries quite often. That was the last.
That's my goal in life, is to change countries very often. Do you want to give us a little bit more of your background just so our listeners have some context?
Sure. So currently I'm working in DimNiko Agency, as you said. It's been 2 years, 2 very great years working purely in e-commerce brands.
Right.
Overall, I've been working for e-commerce on and off for the past 5 years. However, I have also some experience in marketing for retail and just physical stores and local places and so on. Before that, I also work a lot with affiliate networks. So overall, it's been around 7 years that I've been in the marketing world, more or less. Yeah.
Got it. Do you want to tell us maybe some of the biggest trends that you're seeing right now, sort of in the marketing space? And because DimNiko's a global agency, maybe you can make some differentiation between what you're seeing in Europe and maybe in some of the other places where you're operating or you're involved.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a tricky thing to compare because actually in Cyprus, like I said that I was working before, I was also working for an agency, and we had both e-commerce brands and retail brands. And the marketing itself that you do for each one is very different. In some sense, you can use similar strategies, let's say. You obviously have to put into the marketing certain offers and so on. But when I was doing marketing for retail stores, we focused very much on the place itself. Like, for example, some of the campaigns, it was focused on people that was around the area. Obviously, you were targeting people that you knew they can get into the store right now, today. And the thing with the online marketing is that you can buy anywhere, right? In e-commerce, you can be ready to buy any minute. Like, you are just scrolling down Facebook and you see an ad and it seems interesting, and okay, yeah, like I like the product, I'm gonna buy it right now. When you are in a retail, when you are targeting people in a retail, your offer needs to be a little bit different, because you want the people to actually get into the store. You want to get that brand awareness out there, and like, why is your store better than the competition, better than the neighbor store, and what the people need to come to you. So it's very different, but I don't know, at the end of the day, in terms of trends, they change very much for both of them, actually. Now it's been, on and off. I've been 3 years that I'm in e-commerce. So yeah, I think I'm starting to get a little bit out of the retail trends for marketing a little bit.
But you said something really interesting, right? So you talked about the offline shops where you market sort of for people that are in that neighborhood or proximate to that location. I understand that. Mm-hmm. But then you said something kind of in passing, which was like, you're just scrolling through Facebook and then you see a product that you like. And I'm on Facebook all the time, but I don't, and maybe it's because I'm too old or I'm just not in the right demographic. Mm-hmm. But all joking aside, are people literally scrolling through their feed and looking for products? Do you know what I mean? In other words, it's just an interesting way to shop, which I hadn't thought about.
they are actually not. That's the whole thing about Facebook advertising. When you are when you are advertising on Facebook, you are interrupting someone's day scrolling through their feed, but they are not looking to buy a product. If we compare, for example, Google and Facebook, people are searching for the product. They might end up buying it or no. Your ad might be good or might be not good enough for someone to actually go into it and buy your product, but they are definitely have an intent on buying the product. They already went on Google and searched for it. Facebook advertising is completely different. It's actually interrupting someone's activity on just going on Facebook. They had no intent whatsoever on buying a product. That's what makes it harder, I'd say, and that's why it makes it so much more important to actually make it engaging, make it interesting enough for someone to stop what they're doing, stop scrolling down through what their friends are doing on Facebook and getting into your website and seeing what's about. That's what makes it fun, no?
I think so. Can you talk a little bit about this word intent? I think it's really important. When you, like, you're right. When you go onto Google, you're searching for a specific thing and you're intentionally searching for it. You're not just scrolling around looking for things. How is the strategy different on Google if you're placing an ad than it would be on Facebook, where, like you said, you're interrupting, but you may want to sell the same thing?
Yes, but I believe, like, from my point of view on Google, you just need to be better than the competition. You just need to be better than the second ad that is going to show or the third ad that is going to show. And that's all about the strategy, because if your ads are not good enough in the auction space, you're not going to show. And there are so many things that come into place when we are talking about Google, because it's not only are your written ads, is your search ad better than the other? It's just, is your landing page good enough to have certain quality score? Is your creative itself, the search itself, are the keywords related to what they can see, what they can find in the landing page? Are the keywords related to the keywords that you use when you create an ad? Because when you are creating a campaign on Google, you need to select certain keywords, which is what you think people are going to search for in order to find your product, and those need to be related to what is written in the ad itself and what is also on your website or landing page that you are using. So there are so many things that come into play when we're talking about Google, right? And all that affects the score, and that is basically where you are going to show it. You're going to show first, second, third. You're not going to show at all for that specific keyword. But once you are out there, the intent itself that you ask, I believe you just need to be better than the next ad. That's all about it. Like, if you are going to show, and I think one good way to get people to click in your ad and not the next one is to make it a little bit more like it's not an ad, basically. Like, I'm not trying to sell you something. It's just similar to any SEO search that it will appear afterwards, because obviously anything which comes after the advertising is anything that is organic, right? Anything that it has to do with the SEO. So
right.
The more that you make it look like that, I think the better, because obviously nobody wanna feel that they are selling you something, even if you have the intention to buy a product. It's still much better to buy it from someone that is not trying to sell it to me, right? That's how the human thinking is. So that's basically the intent. I believe that's what it is about it.
It's so funny you said that. Like, I always think it was just me, but even yesterday I was kind of walking by a store and I just wanted to peek in. And as soon as the salesperson just started walking towards me, I walked away. And I wondered, like, but I think it's not different in the digital space than it is in the physical space, right? So the online space is the same. If I feel like you're overselling me, I'm not going to buy that product, and definitely not going to buy it from you. Is that fair?
Yes, 100%. I mean, that's how all the big brands started to advertise, with making small blogs or small ads that they look as much as possible as content. That's the whole idea. You need to, and we actually have clients, and we have had clients that their whole strategy was based on having third-party blogs that belong to them, but they make them look native. They make them look like it's someone else that has a blog and is actually talking great about the product that they have. And this works amazingly. And if you have the in-house team to do that, to actually work on weekly blog posts that they are talking about competition, but your product is always better than the other, and you make it look like it's native, like it's someone else that has nothing to do with your business itself, we've seen this working great. Like me personally, I don't have so much experience with native ads, but I think they are starting, in certain market, we are starting to get used to them. You are scrolling through your favorite website and you go to the bottom and like, you might be interested in this or that. First of all, also they have a little tiny thing that says advertisement. They have to have it. But at the beginning, when native ads started, they look very much organic. So it was very easy to click on them, and they make them look like, that's actually a very interesting title for a blog. I'm going to go in and see what they say. And the whole idea of native ads is that I'm going to tell you something that you are interested in. It's a story, has nothing to do with it's just a blog post. But at the bottom, I'm actually going to try to sell you something. So that applies to everything, I believe.
I think this is like super interesting. When we stop a second and we talk and we think about all of what you said, all the digital marketing space and world, and like what everybody's doing in digital marketing, would you agree with me, Patri, if I say that we are very happy with very small numbers, and as we can be profitable, then we keep going? Let me give you an example. If we have a store into a street, and we get like the same amount of people walking by our store as the number of people who see our ads on Facebook. And then into our store, we have the same conversion rates of the people who are actually going to buy. I think the store is going to close pretty fast because the conversion rate is going to be
so bad, right?
Enough and so bad just to sustain the cost of the store, right? But online, it's a different approach. And as the cost is lower to run the ads, then we can make it profitable, even if we have very, very small conversion rates, and we're happy with that, and that's okay. Would you agree with me on that?
I do agree and not.
Oh, perfect. Please tell me why.
let me explain you why. Like, yeah, I agree with you with what you're saying, with just basically you just trying to get as much people as possible into the store and so on, but conversion rate of the website is super important. And some business, they don't notice, or they don't want to notice. They don't realize that this is a big part. Like, you can have a great strategy, you can have amazing creatives, but if I'm sending lots of people to your website because the creative is great, it's engaging, it's interesting, and then the website doesn't convert high enough, and I'm talking this purely on the e-commerce spectrum, your business is never going to be successful. Like, basically the average that we want to see in a good e-commerce website on conversion rate, it should be between the 3-4%. That would be like any minimum average for your business to actually be successful. And then another thing that comes into play is the fact that Facebook is getting more and more expensive because there is more and more competition on Facebook every day.
Right.
So if we were talking about 3, 4, 5 years ago, anything that was advertised on Facebook, you could get people very easily into your website and they would convert like pretty easily. So, but we are not there anymore. And again, all these native ads and everything came into play because every time it's harder and harder to get people to convert. There is so much competition out there, and they are so used to seeing ads all the time that in order for you to actually get people into it, and then having a good website that, or a landing page, whatever it is that converts, takes time and takes a lot of work, and it's very important. We as a media buyers, for example, in an agency, there is a very limit of what we can do strategy-wise on the media buying side if your website doesn't convert. I mean, it needs to go along, it needs to go together.
Right. Like we say in English, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Right. I'm curious. But
never heard that before.
But you know what I mean, right?
I like it.
But it's the same thing for conversions, right? It's like I can bring you into my landing page, but if you don't convert, and that's the horse getting to the water, but if he's not drinking, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
I want to ask you about different conversion rates on properties. In other words, does Google, I guess not. It's really just if they get to a place, but how do you get them there? I'll tell you why. I was talking to somebody in the InsurTech space a couple of days ago. They have 4 million people come into their blog every month, and 500,000 people come into their to their Instagram channel.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that conversions from that going to their website are really high. And they were higher than 3 to 4%, which means they must be doing something right. And they're doing exactly the things that you say. The content isn't selling. It's just like telling people about insurance. You may be interested in insuring your car kind of thing. And if you do, these are the things that you should look for. And then people click on it, go to their page, and hopefully convert into insurance buyers. So it's the same thing. But do you see different conversion rates on Google, on Facebook? I know Instagram is owned by Facebook, but it's a different experience. And then I want to go to Pinterest as well. Like, are those 4 things converting at around the same levels, or are they very different?
They're very different, but also because there is a very different target audience in each one of them. Again, when we are talking about Google, it's a different type of advertising because you are not interrupting people. All of the other platforms that you said, either is Facebook, Instagram, or Pinterest, they are interrupting type of ads. I will say the main difference is the targeting, because you said, for example, Instagram, yeah, it's on my Facebook, but it's a whole other thing. I think from my point of view, the main thing on Instagram is the target audience is a much younger target audience. And then comes what is your product, because depending what your product is, it might work better in one or another. You put as an example, what you say, like an insurance for properties.
Insurance for anything. It's life insurance and health insurance and stuff in this case.
Just like an insurance company. I wouldn't compare it to e-commerce insurance because it's probably more like lead generation. I don't know what type of funnel they follow, but most probably it's more like a lead generation type of thing. And this, I don't know by a fact this specific company, but I can tell you that most properly Instagram is not their main channel where they are acquiring cold traffic. Google is mandatory for any type of company that they're doing this, because now let's have a very easy comparison. Let's say you have a brand that are selling clothes, just clothes, or insurances. How many people goes really on Google like t-shirts and they start buying t-shirts? That doesn't happen, right?
No, nobody.
You don't go on Google like pants, like jeans, and then you see what it's gonna come up with. Like, not at all. So obviously if you have a brand that is selling, and I don't mean any e-com brand, because there might be other products that, yeah, they will do great in Google and they should be there. But anything which is like, I don't know, jewelry, clothing, anything which is fashion related, you're gonna do much better on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Pinterest as well. The thing with Pinterest is, I will say the little bit different is that your creatives, if your creatives matter always in any platform, in Pinterest probably more, because the whole thing about Pinterest is they are like catchy, like eye-catchy type of creatives. They are cute images that I want to save and so on. If you don't have a good image, you're never going to do good in Pinterest, because they are just going to scroll through it and it's not going to matter at all. But for a company that sells insurances, for example, they could do great as well in Facebook, but they need to really give an explanation on why is my insurance better and why it's going to solve for you while you are scrolling through Google, through Facebook, sorry. While if you are in Google, they're already looking for insurances. So they have much more intention on purchasing it. So it's a little bit easier. I don't want to say easy because it's never easy. Right. But yeah, but I mean, for someone who is already looking for an insurance, obviously Google it should be, or it might be, their main platform, their main channel for acquisition for cold traffic.
I understand.
And I think that's very interesting what you say, because like, as you said, like we don't go on Google to look for a t-shirt, but I need a t-shirt, right? Just like if I don't wear a t-shirt and I come here in beautiful TDPK and I come to record with you, Michael, and I have no t-shirt, you're going to say, what are you doing, Martin?
You definitely didn't search for that t-shirt on Google.
But sure. I did not search for that on Google, but I need t-shirt, right? So I was like trying to, like, just before you say that, I was saying like, isn't it really weird to base your whole business model, like Facebook, what is saying, like for example, Facebook, their mainstream of revenue is advertising, right? And then they base this advertising revenue on the fact of interrupting people while they see pictures from their friends. That's a huge bet, actually. like here, we are going to make all of our money by interrupting people while they are checking pictures of their friends. Like to me, it sounds unreal, right? Like it sounds like so weird, but you are right. I don't look for t-shirts. So imagine there is no Facebook, there is no social media. How I would buy my t-shirts just by walking to
You'd go to the mall,
a department store,
and look around
to a mall, and I would be like, oh, that t-shirt looks great, right? And then they would interrupt me, even if I'm still in the mall, so it's not like completely interrupting me, but still a little bit. And then I would go buy the t-shirt, right? So it's not so different in the end of what we would do in the real life.
Yeah, I mean, in the real world, it's like a tout, right? In the old days, you'd go to an old-fashioned market. You just walk through, and the guy or the gal would be like, hey, we got the best t-shirts over here. Step right up, step right in, right? So it's not that different. And to be fair, the whole television model was based on, you watch a 30-minute show, it had 3 2-minute, 2-minute advertisements or 1-minute advertisements, and it interrupted the show. That was the whole model. So not so different from offline. Yeah.
Sure.
And how well they did in TV,
Oh my God.
They did millions.
Even more than that, I think, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, for sure, like you're right. So in the end, so can we say, Patri, based on what you know and your experience in marketing, could we say something like, if you look for a strategy on how you can talk to your consumers or how you can attract people on Facebook, for example, or Instagram, on this platform where you need to interrupt them, maybe first you should think about how you would buy your own product offline. Is it something that people would search for it? Then it might be better to go on Google, for example, the insurance. That's a very good example. Or is it like the t-shirts where you need to interrupt people, then maybe go to platform like Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, it will be a very broad description, let's say. I think if you have a good strategy, maybe you could apply pretty much all kind of channels and all kind of you could advertise pretty much everywhere, but yeah, obviously some makes more sense than others. Actually, Google, it just came to the top of my mind, but actually Google a few years ago started doing Google Shopping, which is basically, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but you see small images, which is like a carousel of images, which is purely for shopping, and it's just like showing you scrolling down. And many of those can be like t-shirts, pants, or generally this is obviously used for remarketing. So if you have, again, a fashion store and you are actually, your main channel for acquiring cold traffic is Facebook, you can still create a retargeting audiences with those people that have already been on your website and then show them in Google Shopping those items that they have already looked at. So, if you know how to, you can apply to all channels, but yeah, some make more sense than others. And I think on Facebook, the strategy will be very different depending the product that you have. If you have something that is just based on, I like it, so I buy it, either that's fashion, a t-shirt, or again, like I said, maybe jewelry, which is something that you don't need, but if you are scrolling through Facebook and it looks good, it looks cool, I like these earrings, I'm gonna buy them, all this type of stuff, your strategy is gonna be a bit more different than if you have a product that actually solves an issue. You have a product that you need to explain to that person that is scrolling through Facebook, hey, I have this product, which is great, but also it's gonna solve this and this issue of yours. And that's why you should get into my website and check it out and eventually, hopefully buy it.
Can I ask you a question about retargeting? I think we may have talked about this offline, but I'm really curious about your opinion on this. And let's go to Google, right? Because this is where intent starts. I go and I search for something. Let's just call it like, I don't know, face scrub. Doesn't matter, right? Some exfoliating cream. And then I go out and I buy it. How can I tell Google to stop retargeting me? Like, wouldn't that be great for the advertiser if they could stop the retargeting? Because again, it's like what we talked about earlier. It's that annoying interruption where I'm being sold to now, as opposed to, I wanted it, I found it, I bought it, now leave me alone. Is there a way to fix that?
Okay, it is a way to fix that, but that should be on the advertiser side. You should never be retargeting people that bought your product, or if you are buying something that you will keep using again and again. You give a good example. Like, one thing is I buy, I don't know, let's say something that you just use once and that's it. For example, a program that when you buy it, you use it, that's it. The program is done. You're
Right.
not gonna buy it again and again, right?
Right.
It's extremely important to exclude the audiences that have purchased this product. This is basics of media buying.
Right.
You need to stop showing your ad, but just for yourself. If you have your own business, you're going to be spending money on showing ads to people that they don't want it. They already bought it from you. You should not be showing that to them. No, forget about annoying those people. And the fact that if you show an ad to someone too many times and they get annoyed, you can report it. You can report that ad, like, okay, stop showing it to me. I'm done, you know. I shouldn't say this too much, because I guess there is people out there that they don't know this, you know. So for advertising sites, it's better that they don't.
That's good for you, right? That's good for you, but people.
We won't tell anybody, I promise.
I didn't say this. But yeah, on Facebook, for example, you can do that. And that's one of the reasons that we keep a very close eye on the frequency, which is the amount of times that you are actually showing an ad to that type of audience. So yeah, that's basics of advertising or media buying, I would say, which is you exclude purchasers, you exclude people that they already bought the product. That's if it's a like one-time thing product that you use it once and that's it. Now, if you put it as an example, something like you said, which is a face scrubber or like a cream or something like that, when you finish it, you might want to buy it again, right?
Right.
Or for the most parts, those type of companies, those type of businesses, they have plenty of other products that you might be interested in.
Yeah, that was a bad example for me, but yeah, go ahead.
So when it comes to retargeting, or in this case, I will call it retention. Retention means someone who already bought your product, but I will retarget those again within maybe a month. They probably are pretty much done with their face scrubber. That's more or less what it lasts for a whole month. And I'm going to show it to them again because they might want to buy it again. So that's also another strategy that, let's say, this applies to people that has products that you keep using one and again and again. And another retargeting thing that you're going to keep seeing if you bought if you bought certain product like that is cross-selling or upselling. Yeah, you bought the face scrubber, but what about this night cream, or what about this eye cream for the eyes that it goes especially well with that face scrubber that you purchased, and that you should also try from us, you know? So answering your question, yes, if it's a one-time product and you already purchased, it should be out of there, but not from the user perspective, but from the media buyer, from the advertiser part. You should never show that, because you're throwing out money.
Yeah, I just want Porsche to stop trying to sell me another 911.
You can report the ad, Michael.
I'll report it.
And you can just keep reporting that. So then
enough
they get
already.
Banned and something, you know.
Enough already.
But to be fair, I remember doing that. Like, there was some ads I remember on YouTube, like we just like keep coming and coming and coming. So I was like, that's so annoying to get all the time the same ads. And I think the guy that just put so much money into repetition, as you said, he wanted just like his name to be here, like maybe like too much awareness, or I don't know what.
I don't know what either.
But it was way too much. I just report. And at some point it stopped. So maybe it helped.
Yeah, it's like, I'm never on YouTube, but if I was on YouTube, I would tell them to stop sending me Speechalo abs. I'd definitely tell them to stop, but I'm not on YouTube. But if I were, sorry, go ahead, Patri. I interrupted you.
No, but I was going to say that when that happens, it's probably just a bot strategy of media buying. That's probably people who maybe they don't know exactly what they need to do or how they do it. So they put a lot of money on retargeting, because obviously retargeting campaigns generally convert at a lower cost. It's obviously people who is already being on your website. They already are aware of your product, so you don't need to convince them to buy. They already kind of show an intention, or they show that they're interested in some way. So retargeting campaigns generally have a lower cost and they convert better. But if you don't know what exclusions to use, if you don't really know how to set them up, that's what you get, being annoying. That it will not end up well.
No, it won't at all.
For sure. But that's for me like really interesting. And I'm always like, you know, like kind of wondering what if the customer knows everything we do on the marketing side. Like, you know, like all the offers, all the urgency that you create in the ad or on the website. And there's like tons of brands who do that, you know, for the good. Like that's real. The offer is only for the next 2 weeks and that's okay. But there's also tons of them who just like create a weekly offer every week and that's the same offer. So sometimes I'm always like, you know, balancing, like what if the customer would know everything we do on the marketing side I think it's better that they don't know.
Can I jump in for a second? Do you
For sure.
mind? Because I think the more we have this conversation with Patri, and the more like we all three of us come up with these ideas or these questions, it reminds me of these carpet stores in Tokyo. They were always going out of business, right? So they were trying to create this urgency. We're leaving, and there's only a 2-week sale, but some of these companies are like going out of business for 20 years. Do you know what I mean? So I'm starting to think that the tactics that are used online, of course, scale is different, but the tactics that are used online are kind of no different than the tactics that are used offline, except for the scale and the tech that's involved, right? In other words, if you bought a carpet from these people, they would probably send you a flyer once a week into your mailbox, like your physical mailbox, which is no different than retargeting, right? And at some point you would just go to the store and just go, dude, really, I've already bought 3 carpets here. Enough with the mailings, right? You just throw it away, which is kind of like reporting. Does that sound wrong to you though, Patri? Doesn't it mirror what's going on in the offline world?
No, it's 100%. I mean, we haven't invented anything, you know, everything is invented out there. There is not pretty much a space for much new. We are just reinventing the tactics that were already applied for any regular business and how you can make them work in the online business, like 100%. There is really nothing. In terms of the urgency, I like that question, because actually that's something that, again, if we go back just a few years, because the thing with online advertising is that hasn't been there for that long, right? I mean, this type of advertising on Facebook it was not that big just a few years ago.
Okay.
And this urgency tactic is something that it worked really, really well at the very beginning of e-commerce advertising. It might not work so well anymore with certain markets. And that
knows, right?
yes, and that I mean, it's a matter of you get used to the things again and again. But this comes into play a lot of times, the type of market that you are targeting, and if you are showing this to, I don't know, countries like the US or Europe or this type of audience, they are fed up of seeing offer for the next 10 minutes or offer for the next 2 days, or sometimes, you know, you go into a fashion store and it says there is only 2 of these left in stock. Like come on. Like I know they are not, you know. So these things, they are still being used. I mean, I don't see it a bad thing to do it. Maybe not exceed it, you know, not maybe too much of it. I think it can be a little bit just detrimental for your business.
Right.
But when you are targeting certain other countries, and I've seen it, you know, there are still a lot of countries out there that they are not that used to advertising. They are not that used to buying things online. And these things are still a bit more new to them, and they work. The urgency on the website, it actually works. And also depending on the product, works better for ones than others. Like if we are talking that specific example that I just gave, like there are just 2 jeans in a store, buy it now because we don't have more. It might be like, come on, like I know that's not true. But then if you have a certain offer and you say, for example, for a program, and you get the programs once a week, and I give you this out of top of my head, because we have a client that they have a specific program that it was like, you will join every week. Every week the program restarted again with new users, of course, and they will be giving like activities to play with your kids, and how to teach them, like for 2 years old kind of thing. How to what games to play with them so that they could learn from it. It was not only fun, but they could actually learn a lot of things from it. And this program started, as I said, every week. So this urgency thing on the website that it said, next program is starting tomorrow, next program is starting in 24 hours, it worked, because otherwise people will be like, I have a lot of time, I will think about it, maybe I'll do it another time. But if I know that it's going to start tomorrow, I'm like, okay, I'm going to try, because if I leave it now, maybe I won't see it again, and maybe I won't purchase. So again, everything comes to your product and your audience and how you want to apply it. But
I think the travel industry has nailed this, right? So if you're planning a vacation, and I mean, not now, obviously, because every seat is open and every hotel room is unbooked. But in the old days, it would be like 2 more rooms left at this price. right?
Yeah.
Or only one seat left on the airline to go to Phuket. You're like, I got to book this thing.
You're right. If you go to like websites like booking.com, like for example,
they're just crushing you with this.
marketing.
Just crushing you with this, right?
Yeah, like tons of it. You're right. That's a nice comparison.
But again, it reminds me of the offline world. I was on a phone call with a guy a couple of nights ago, and he said to me, I've got a hard stop for this meeting at 7:30. Like he just wasn't going to be on past the half hour. And at like 7:29, he had another question, and we talked for like another 15 minutes because he realized he was actually interested. So it was the same thing. He was trying to create urgency, but in the end, that urgency wasn't real. Does that make sense? So he was doing the same thing that Agoda does all the time, where they say only 2 more rooms left at this price, and 3 people just booked. They have this thing that pops up, right?
I remember one day with Agoda, I wanted to book an apartment, and actually there was a price on Agoda, and I was already in the town, so I drove there directly. I asked the price, and it was cheaper, so I booked directly.
Really?
Yeah, it was cheaper, and this is a moment where I realized that this is a marketing, right? And I feel my thought about the awareness of the public regarding this kind of offers might work for a while, but after that, people just realize what happened actually, and it's exactly what you just said, right? With your urgency offers, it used to work, but now people are used to that. So there is definitely kind of like let's say a learning curve of the general public regarding marketing. So if you are doing something new, let's say marketing wise, you have an age, so then you can like increase your conversion rates, convert people to buy from you easier, but past some time it doesn't work. Then you need to innovate again and do something new again, right?
Yeah, this is actually called market sophistication. So it depends how sophisticated your target audience is and in which countries are you targeting. Then it changes a lot the strategy that you should use. But yeah, that's basically it, exactly how you described it.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever been booking a vacation with somebody else, and that somebody else says, "Uh-oh,
the price is different.
We better book it. No, we better book it right now because the 2 rooms just got booked, and this is one-time only deal." And you're like, "Just wait a minute."
Yeah, wait a minute.
And tomorrow you just go back and same thing or better.
And have you booked an airline ticket with someone and you get a different price on two computers? Like, how damageable is that for the brand? Like,
don't they know you're sitting next to each other?
Can you damage your brand more than giving 2 different prices for the same thing to 2 different customers?
Yeah, I mean, the airlines use these tactics a lot.
They do that a lot. I think this is awful. Like, this is awful. I don't know, like, why they keep doing that, but they have to stop.
They don't think you're sitting next to the person that's booking with you. I've got another question for you. Sorry, did I interrupt you, Patri?
I was going to say, because the flying, is something that it touches very, very close to the heart, because I fly a lot. And when I see this, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go on my mobile phone. Let's see if it's cheaper. So even you don't even need to be sitting next to someone. You can go into the phone, and sometimes it's cheaper. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I wanted to ask you about algorithms.
Yes.
And again, I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they were like, the Google algorithm is the one I think that most people talk about, but all these big companies, all the ad platforms have algos. How important is it for somebody, for a client actually, to be up to date on what the algorithms are actually doing?
Well, first off, I will reply to your question. We don't even know how the algo works. Nobody that actually, maybe the people who works at the Facebook, Google, etc., know how the algo works. We don't. I wish I knew exactly how the algorithm works. But any updates constantly. Like, the thing with any of these platforms is that if you are not on top of trends, from months to month, just thing keeps changing. And especially now, for example, Facebook with all these iOS changes is insane. Anybody that was not advertising just the past 3 months, they will get into Facebook, and there is all these different things that you need to set up now, and you need to verify your domain, and you need to set up certain events, and you need to set them up together in order for you to track actually certain actions on your website. And there are so many things that they have changed that if you are not constantly using, you're just out to date completely. So it doesn't go only about the algo itself. The algorithm, how they work, for example, talking from Facebook, because it's what we do the most at DimNiko, we don't know exactly how they work with the algo, but it's just a matter of trends. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons to hire an agency is that if you are not on top of a lot of things, if you have a business, and unless it's a massive business and you are just taking care of the media buying purely and only, then yes, then of course you are doing this. But if you are a middle-sized business and you are trying to, juggling everything, and you are running your ads, and you are also taking care of the stock and the operational part of the business and so on, you are not so much on top of things of what is really going on in the advertising business. And then it's very, very hard, very complicated to make it work. There are so many times that we have clients and we explain them, this is how it works now, and we need to get certain amount of purchases for a campaign to be able to exit the learning phase. And once they exit the learning phase is when it really starts improving and getting better. The first few days, you might actually see very different results up and down and be like, I'm going to stop this campaign because it's actually not working. We are not getting enough sales. And then you leave it past 4 days and then it starts stabilizing and start getting better because the algo got enough data to know, okay, I need to show these ads to this person or that person to this specific audience in order to get you the most sales. And these things, a lot of people don't know because when they have their own business, they are not on top of this 24/7 like we are. That's basically what we do. And not only that, like in an agency, it's not only that the person that is working in the account does this on a single day, every day, is that we have many different brands with many different type of products, and we get to understand what works where and what is actually performing better. So answering your question about the algo itself, I wish I had someone from inside Facebook telling me that's exactly how the algo works, but we don't know. But yeah, in terms of trends and advertising, it's very important to be on top of things.
But that's very interesting because you say we have many brands and we try to understand how it works, right? I think the word you say is get the experience, and try to get what's going on, which means like, how do you learn? You just experiment. That's it. Like, so like, I guess like that's part of your job is to follow these trends, right? But as Facebook is updating constantly and Facebook doesn't tell you, right? Then and the only thing that you can do is just experiment and figure it out, right?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, Facebook could have like one algorithm this month, a new one the next month, and then just to mess with you, go back to the old one. You know what I mean? Maybe they only have 3 algos, but it just looks like they're constantly changing. I don't know. Sorry, Patri, go ahead.
Yes, that's very true. And yes, A/B testing. A/B testing. That's everything that any media buyer will tell you, any person that is working advertising will tell you what you need to do to find something that is profitable, to find something that works. A/B test. That's everything that you need to do. Like, you never know what can work. You never know exactly, not only for each brand, but either for each product. I mean, we have companies that they have very similar product and something works for one and not for another. That can happen. But generally, you learn from this testing many things that you can apply to other brands. Even if they don't have exactly the same product, you can still apply it. And I think with the A/B testing are things, you learn very funny things sometimes, which is that you can have a beautiful, amazing creative, let's say a video that, the team put together with all this beautiful music and explanation in the video with, writing of what is the product and what it does and la, la, la. And then you put it to test next to, I don't know, just an image of very basic image. It doesn't even look good whatsoever. And then the image actually gets all the sales, all the purchases against the great video that your team created. That happens all the time. We've seen it happening all the time. I can't tell you why. There is not a specific reason why that works and the other not, but it happens. So if you don't test, you never know.
Do you think that media buyers in the end have to end up being technicians as well, that they have to have some idea about how technology works? And this happened actually in my business. In the old days, like a trader or an execution trader used to get a feel for the market. But at some point, what happened was they changed over, and now all these people had PhDs in computer science because they were just programming against the market, if that makes sense. Do you see the same thing happening in the media buying space where like the best media buyers are going to be the people that come out of like MIT with a PhD in media buying?
Well, yes and no. I think the more you know in terms of, for example, when it comes to the pixel and setting it up, and the more you understand that, which is a developer's work, but you need to have an understanding on it, if not how to install it, at least how it works. The basics of how it works. You cannot be a good media buyer if you don't understand the basics of how pixel implementation works and what you need to set up in terms of events and so on. That's mandatory, at least, to know. I don't know if technology, but if we are moving to the developer side of things, for example, which is the closer, is something that media buyers work very closely with, right? The developers to be able to install the things that we need to, for tracking and so on. I truly hope no, because I don't see myself learning to be a developer. So it's very complicated.
But I think that's a good example that you said with the trading, because at first you would do that manually, right?
Yeah.
I guess like a long time ago, like at your time, maybe people would do that manually.
Back in the 1930s, 1940s, like that.
Like way more than that.
Before the war kind of thing.
Way more than that. Like at your time, I don't remember right. But
Sorry, before television.
But like in those days, like people were trading, let's say manually, like without computer, without algorithm, right?
They're getting killed.
And right now, I'm not sure about these figures, but I think that in the European stock market, most of the trade are made by algorithm. Like I think more than human. I'm not sure 100%, but I think it does. So why not the same for the media buying? What about AI? What about robots who can do the decision faster than you, better than you, analyze more data, use big data also, like based on tons of campaigns, and just to learn and just like to play against Facebook algorithm or Google algorithm much faster and much better than you. Exactly what you are doing in the what you were doing, in the stock market world.
Right. So we call this reverse engineering.
Yeah.
We used to get blind portfolios, and you'll see where this relates to this. We used to get blind portfolios with statistics around it. Like it has some autos in it, it has some electronics in it, and we could run tech that knew what the sort of index component was like. And then we could reverse engineer the portfolio and go, we'll pay you 12 for that, whatever it is. Because we knew it was inside it. We could reverse engineer what was inside it. It's a great point. Can you fight the algo with another algorithm that goes, I know what you're doing. I figured you out by using technology and some programming.
Maybe one big difference between like what like Patri is doing with Facebook ads and what you are doing with stock market, in that you can use the old data, that you have like some kind of like, how do you say again? You can backtest, right? The algorithm and stuff like that. But Patri, you cannot do that. Can you run an ad 2 months ago and just try?
No, but I can run an ad against what the situation was 2 months ago. You can actually look at what the situation back was then. Look at all the ads you ran and see what the response was from the market, and then extrapolate what would happen and what the algo was doing. You can definitely do that. And if you write that technology, then you can constantly be battling against, because that's what automated trading does, right? In a way, it's more complicated than that for sure. Sorry, Patri, go ahead.
I think artificial intelligence is gonna get us all out of business. That's for sure. I don't know how soon, how fast, but they are doing amazing things already out there for many other sections or parts of the advertising. There are apps out there based on artificial intelligence that you give them a tiny bit of content and they create a whole copy for you to use in your ads. So you don't need to give them that much information, and they give you like great different versions or variations of an ad copy so you can put them to test. So that's out there already, a copywriter's job, right? Made like just with an artificial intelligence type of app. So yeah, answering to that, yes, if that's where you were going with your first questions, I do believe it can be possible, it can be done, and it probably will exist eventually. Yes.
I think so.
That's interesting that you mentioned the auto writing by AI, right? Like, I think this is coming from OpenAI, if I'm not mistaken. Like I think, once again, if I'm not mistaken, that it's one of the company from Elon Musk. They created this AI that they give to other companies just to create stuff based on the technology that they have. So I think the core technology is OpenAI, and then there's a bunch of companies who are using that to create their own stuff. And right, like we can see OpenAI right now able to write for you. So like he can write copy, blog post, even books. I saw people writing books using the AI. But also something also interesting that OpenAI now can write codes. So you don't need to be a developer. It can develop something for you using some long languages, of course.
Code-free type of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's not
no code, low code, yeah.
Not exactly the no code, low code, like because most of the time with no code, what they do is that they create like just one template. Like for example, they do like one picture of a phone, for example, let's say using CSS, and after that they just copy paste the same code to be able like to reuse it. But here with this AI, it's a bit different because it's gonna translate word in English language into code. So for example, you say, hey, like create for me a game with, I don't know, like a little character moving this way, and boom, you have your game doing exactly what you said in English, but with lines of code.
So it does natural language processing into code creation.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
And then it's gonna write for you what you said with lines of code using CSS, PHP, and over kinds of languages. So I was super interested into that myself because I'm not a developer exactly like you, Patri. I don't want to learn that, but it's directly impact my business because like, as you know, I have a tech business, so I have to work with developers. But if tomorrow I don't have AI writing codes for me, well, that's a game changer because like, maybe I can make things much faster, much cheaper. I can get myself understood faster also, right? So I think it can also help a lot for creativity and creating new stuff. So that's great. So what about the same thing, AI, bots, algorithm, but in advertising?
Yeah, for marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe 100% that it will happen. I haven't seen it quite just yet in specifically the tasks that we do in media buying, but I wouldn't be surprised. And yeah.
But don't you think it would kill the entire industry if tomorrow there's an algorithm? Because what made the algorithm interesting into trading, for example, is that they can compete against each other. But like here, the number of platforms where you can advertise is so low that how are you gonna get the algorithm to compete with each other and be relevant?
So I don't know who said this, but I think it might have been W.C. Fields. But the phrase went something like this. He said, "The rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated," because he was still alive. And I don't know if it was him, but somebody said that. And I think the death of humans in jobs is just being greatly exaggerated, right? And I'll tell you why. If DimNiko has a client, they want to call and talk to Patri.
For sure.
They definitely want to call and talk to a human. And if they're in South Africa or if they're in the Middle East or if they're in New York, they want to call somebody in Spain, right? And just go, oh, I need to talk to the lady that I work with at DimNiko or somewhere.
For sure.
They don't want to talk to a robot. They don't want to input stuff in. So that job, I don't think is ever going to go away. Now, the back-end programming part may just become more sophisticated and better, but I honestly don't think that visceral human need, that interaction with humans that people need and want is going to go away, right? Because you could create some bot to do this too, but Patri doesn't want to talk to a robot.
And people that don't feel want to listen to a robot.
Nobody wants to listen to a robot.
They want to really listen to us, Michael. It's so much better.
They definitely do. I've been told by a lot of robots, actually, I'd much rather listen to you talk than to me talk. But that's what I think. Patri, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, the human interaction is going to always have a place to be. We might need to readjust, or it might change a little bit how we work, not only for advertising, but for any other type of jobs.
I think so.
But actually, you said it might, like the back-end part, it might get more sophisticated. But if you are in advertising for a few years, you see this already happening. I mean, with how everything works in the technical part of Facebook is so much more user-friendly than they used to be years ago. Like right now, if you need to install certain coding or certain things into your website, they give you instructions that you can actually set up without any knowledge of developer, you know, like you don't necessarily always need a developer to do certain things. So it's getting easier, let's say, in a way. So I see it happening that way. I truly hope that, you know, our jobs are safe for a very long time as they are, because I really like it. And I think, there is a part in advertising that while you can obviously learn from like a robot can learn from the past and what worked and put it into test and so on, there is a thing that is we are still selling to humans, we are still targeting humans, and there is always a little part that like having that person behind the computer getting to analyze the data and to be like, okay, I think this is what I would like to see, this is what it will actually work for me, I think this can work for this brand or that brand is always helpful and it's always going to be important.
Yeah, look, I want to buy stuff from someone that's smiling at me. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and
that's not going away ever.
And also, like, people are changing. Like, the culture of a country is evolving, the language is evolving, and like people are thinking, there's new stuff happening. Like, for example, during COVID, like everything's changed like almost overnight, right? So this is the kind of stuff that the robots might take so much time to understand,
to figure out.
And then if it's just gonna be like way too late, right? And as we said earlier, if you do urgency advertising now, it might not work, right? But a few years ago, it was great. So we staying on top of the trend, getting this feeling of the culture of what's going on and like what's the words in people are using and stuff like that.
Right.
I think can only be done by a human at the end of the day.
Look, I do a whole podcast on data, right? Data driven. And I was speaking to somebody in Bulgaria a couple of days ago for an episode that I released today, I think, or yesterday. I can't remember. And one of the things that she said, they do product annotation. One of the things that she said are machines are very good at learning what something is, but very bad at learning what the significance of that thing is. Do you know what I mean?
That's
like they know it's an apple, but they don't know that it's edible. They can definitely go, that's an apple, because I've seen a ton of apples, 1,000 apples, but I don't know. I don't know what I do with an apple. Right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a super fascinating conversation. Anyway.
No, that's super interesting. And it leads me to another thought, Patricia, and I would like to have your thought about that as well. I always think that digital marketing and advertising in general on this kind of platform is always like controlled by a very few number of key players. Yeah. Like, look, for example, during this like almost 1 hour conversation,
we've only mentioned 4 companies.
We only mentioned 4 companies, right?
And one of them is smaller, like Pinterest, Facebook, Google, and Instagram, which is owned by Facebook.
Yeah. So like there's so much. There's so few players, right, who just control everything. And if Facebook doesn't like you and they just shut down your ad account, if Google doesn't like you and they just say, no, you cannot advertise, we just don't want that.
Bid on that word, yeah.
Then your business just like
vanishes,
right? There's nothing more. So what do you think about that? Do you think that's dangerous? Do you think it's true? Do you think it's not true? Do you think we need more competition? What's your point of view?
Well, I think there are a few more. We have only mentioned 4. It's true that there are not that many, but we have a few more, depending what business you have. You can advertise on LinkedIn. It works great for B2B type of businesses. We have a lot of TikTok advertising coming up right now, like Snapchat as well. YouTube, which you mentioned, obviously is done through Google, but it's a complete different type of audience and type of advertising. So yeah, it is controlled by a few. It's not that many that they are up there, but I think in terms of if Google doesn't like you, it will kind of block you and you are not advertising anymore. I think that should only be a worry if you are doing some type of shady or wrongly advertising, because following the guidelines that either Facebook or Google or any other platform give you are pretty straightforward. There are certain things that you cannot advertise in their platforms, which are common sense things. Common sense. They are just things related to, I don't know, tobacco or stuff like that is just not allowed to be advertised in there. And there are other products that, from my point of view, as an agency, I think it's good when they restrict certain ads from certain companies, because there is a lot of people out there that are just trying to make easy money, and they don't have a proper business, they don't have a big company behind it.
Right.
And there is a lot of people who puts a lot of work into that. They have a company and they are really trying to make it succeed and make it work, and then there are so many that they are just trying to find, you know, the shortcut to get there and to make easy money. And if they are restricted and they are out of business, from my point of view, I think that's actually okay. So I think if you have a proper business, if you have everything in place, if you are selling a product that is allowed on the platform, you should not have to be worried about that. So I think that's fine.
You want to say something?
I just want to say something because
after that, I want to tell my story. But please go ahead.
Well, because I mean, I exist online all day, right? And I'm searching for things all the time. I think it's only fair that if I'm on Google and I type in pipe drive should be the top result that I get. Okay. It shouldn't be some other CRM sales system. Like somebody else should not be able to bid on that word. Anyway, please go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. And I just want to tell you a story, Patri, just based on what you just said. Okay, so it's something that happened to me. So that's like a real life story. I arrived in Thailand a year and a half ago, like January 2020, right? And it was just before COVID. So it was like starting to happen. It already happened in China. Like it was like already a disaster. Thailand was kind of like the next place where it was very dangerous to be because of COVID, and I just came here. And when we came here, like I was in Thailand before, the year before as well. And like in time of no COVID in Thailand, they use masks daily. It's just normal for cold pollution or
pollution. Yeah.
If you are sick or something, people just use masks. It's normal, right? Then there was COVID, where we needed masks, right? So which happened that in Thailand, we had tons of masks because the country was ready for it. We have factories, we have like people who just made them themselves and stuff like that, right? Just because it's part of the normal routine, let's say. I'm from France. We don't have mask factories in France. And then when COVID breaks, my family could not get masks, okay? I was in Thailand, so I was like, well, I can buy tons here, make them into a box, and ship it to you, right? And then I was like, if I can do that for my mom, I can do that for more people. I'm not Bill Gates, so I cannot do it for free because then I can help 10 people, because I don't have the money that he has. But if everybody can pay me a little bit, I can probably ship a lot, right? But as I don't have tons of friends, let's do some ads. It lasted 2 hours until they blocked me. And this
2 hours.
Yeah, I think even less than that. Before they blocked me. And the reason why they blocked me is they said you cannot take advantage of something so bad like COVID. And I was like, I'm not taking advantage. I'm sending to my mom and to people who cannot get masked because the government is doing, I don't know what, but they cannot get masked into our country where we need it. And I have tons here. So like, okay, there's an opportunity if you can see it this way, but I'm also helping. And this is what an entrepreneur does. At the end of the day. Right. We are helping people to have a benefit. Facebook, Google, everybody say, no, you cannot do that. And before COVID, advertising for masks, no problem. When COVID breaks, it became a big problem. So I understand your point when you say people want to make quick money and sell bullshit and stuff like that. That's completely okay. But there's also some stories like mine who are completely legit and there was no problem. But because of the lack of competition and let's say humanity from this company, because they are so huge that they just cannot listen to your story and check what you do and be sure that you're doing something right. Like the process of blocking you or allowing you just automated. So they just say everything related to COVID cannot, right? It was like just one decision, it's this way. So this is kind of what I was like, well, we need some competition into this market. So then we have more chance to be heard if we do something good at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. But I think with the COVID thing is such a special type of situation that we are all in, you know, and and not only on the advertising side, like Facebook started restricting a lot of posts that you will put out there if it was related to COVID and so on. I think not to put me on the side of the big guys, but I think it's a little bit hard to control or to try to find, you know, the middle point for this, like trying to stay away from certain advertising that are used to take advantage and the good guys. And so in that way, it's like not for everyone, and you can't promote masks and that's about it. And you couldn't, still nowadays, you couldn't actually mention COVID in your ads, no matter what your product was. If you were selling something else and you were kind of like, are you in lockdown because of COVID? Maybe it's time for you to use our product, kind of thing.
Can't do that.
Those type of ads got also restricted, you know, but okay, I think with the pandemic itself, it's kind of a difficult to find the middle ground there. So I understand it, but yeah.
You're right. Maybe COVID is a little bit extreme. I can make you.
I'm shutting down all your ads anyway. Either way.
But I have another example that just happened, I think, not so long ago, I think a month or two ago, when Pinterest decided to ban all the weight loss ads. They just said that, hey, everybody who do weight loss, down. We're not gonna accept you anymore.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Oh, really? You just cannot buy your weight loss stuff on Pinterest anymore. So, like, I don't want like to waste the thought if it's good or bad. You know, that's not what I want to say. But my point at the end of the day with that is that I don't like when too much power is in the hands of so much people who can just decide whatever they want, just change their policy, maybe not overnight, but in 6 months or 2 years. And then it's very hard as a business owner to rely on this channel long term, basically, because we have no idea that Pinterest is just gonna say we want everybody to feel good about how they are. So everything without weight loss down. Okay, so what if my whole business 3 years ago, we bet on Pinterest, we get a huge audience, it's super good, we do ads, we hire a great agency like you, and overnight down. So once again, there's so much power into the hand of so few people that this thing can happen, and there's nothing that we can do about that.
I feel like we could continue having this conversation forever. And Patri's been so generous with her time,
for sure,
but also with her knowledge. I mean, we've had tons of guests on the show, and I think she's been an amazing guest and really generous with her knowledge. I really appreciate it. Patri Ferreras, the lead media buyer at DimNiko Agency, you were awesome.
Thank you very much, guys. I had a great time, really.
Thank
It's
you.
been a lot of fun.